Other sports? Do you play any other than soccer, or was it kind of
Oh
your
yeah,
thing?
absolutely. In
Yeah.
New York, when we got to New York, my brother and I, my brother Philip, we're fanatics about sports. We watch everything. Baseball, basketball, soccer, football, American football, hockey, track. We watch everything, tennis, and we became just fanatics. We were fanatical about sports. We could tell you all the baseball players, all their batting average, basketball players' stats, football teams, who's on what team, all the 24 different teams in America, basically. So when so we played all these different sports on the streets. But when I went to high school, I played three different sports. I ran track, I played soccer, and I played baseball.
How important do you think it is? Because one of the big challenges we have in youth sports, and I don't know how far of a dive we'll do into this, is specialization. Mm-hmm. Kids playing a sport from like 6, 7 years old, and that's all they're playing.
Yeah.
What's your take on that versus all the different sports you played and followed, and whatever the case may be? What's the best path? What do you think?
Well, the NBA, if you the past 10 years now in the NBA, the number one draft pick, which was the top player in the whole country that they drafted, has had a major injury and was out for a year or more. And after this has happened several times, there's been a lot of studies. They're saying a lot of these guys were specialized in basketball basically at a very young age.
Yeah.
I think for your coordination, for different muscles that develops, it's very important to play different sports. When I was growing up, the sports were in different seasons. So I was able to go from one season to the next season to the next season. But now they've got everything running at the same time. Mm-hmm. So the kids kind of are forced to play one sport, can't play the other sport. And they shouldn't be playing the two sports at the same time, because that could be problematic as well. Because what you see a lot of times, you see some kids, for example, they go into soccer practice after they run cross country. Well, that doesn't make any sense, because their muscles are so tired by the time they get to soccer, their muscles are just flat tired. And that is a major factor to create injuries, long-term injuries. And injuries is going to happen slowly, but it's going to develop, and it's going to develop to a huge problems down the road. Or some injuries don't happen very quick. It could be a hamstring, it could be a calf injury. So these kind of things are very important. When the kids are playing all these sports all at once, they don't have the rest time that they need. And they don't have, a lot of times they're not training properly. You know, for me, as far as youth sports is concerned, from age 8 to 12 is the foundation, is where you got to build the foundation of the sport. You got to develop skills. You got to develop all of that. But when you don't do that, basically you'll never have it. I mean, you'll never have it from 8 to 12. So what's happening when you have kids doing all these different sports all at once, it creates a huge problem injury-wise. And then, of course, the rest time.
Kind of interesting you got use the basketball analogy, because there's a slide that I've shared in a bunch of talks. Study done by Children's Hospital, can't remember specifically or top of mind, but they looked at basketball players in the NBA that had specialized as early as 13, and then those that deferred until they got to university to just focus on basketball. And those that were the early specialization, so at 13 years old, once they got into grade 8, they were 10 times more likely to have suffered injuries and come into the pipeline, much like you were saying on the first round overall, and had shorter playing careers because they couldn't sustain it long term. And it's the data is out there. It's just a matter of how do we convince the parents of that? Well,
the thing is that you have to understand too, when a kid who's 18 years old gets drafted in the NBA, for example, and it's true for all the different sports, obviously. When you're 18 years old, you get drafted, your muscles are not developed like the pros are. You're not prepared for that season. You're going from, I don't know how many games of college you're playing, but you're going to an 82 game season. Mm-hmm. And then it's back to back here from different cities. It's a huge difference. It's a huge jump. I mean, when I first got into the pros at the age of 19, I went from practicing, 3-4 times a week to practicing 2 or 3 times a day. It's a huge difference.
Yeah.
And your body has to be ready for that. And unfortunately, it's not. And that's why they're sustaining these injuries. And the coordination, understanding different sports is very important as well. Teaching kids how to play soccer, teaching them how to hit the ball a certain way. If they play baseball, I can make the connection right away. I could say to them, hey, look, if you hit the ball this way, it goes like a line drive in baseball. You've seen a line drive in baseball, right? Yes. If you hit it this way, it goes like a pop fly in baseball. You've seen that. You've seen that, yes. But when they have no concept of that, it makes it that much difficult to explain certain things to them.